Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Brew City Lounge. I am your host, Brandon. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Go ahead and follow the show on Twitter, on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube at Brew City Pod. Coming to you live after a Milwaukee Bucks loss. A very interesting game from really start to finish. The Bucks do lose game one, 115-107. And I think the score really isn't indicative on how bad really that game was. A couple different things to break into. We'll get into it. We'll discuss what went wrong. Kind of look ahead to game two. What's something to look out for in game two? And really, 43 seconds into the game, right away, James Harden goes out of the game with what looked like to be a hamstring injury. Again, keep in mind the same hamstring that kept James Harden out of the game out of 21 games in the regular season. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. If you guys are on the live feed, Noah, I guess you got to be here. Thanks for joining. Adam, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, as I stated, walking into the show, the Bucks do drop game one, 115-107. Very excited to have you guys tuning in. If you're on the live stream, like I said, thank you so much for tuning in. I do go live on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook. As always, it's win, lose, or draw. It's an absolute honor and privilege to be here, to be talking about our favorite teams, no matter what happens. And I'm talking about those Milwaukee Bucks and Brewers. Breaking down the Bucks. Welcome to the Brew City Lounge post-game show. So we're going to dive kind of right into it. If you guys are out on there watching on YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook, do not be afraid. Drop a comment. Let me know exactly how you feel, because I have a whole lot of thoughts about this game. And quite frankly, the Bucks lost, yes, but there's a lot to take away from this game, and I don't think that it's necessarily a bad loss. Now, look, the Bucks were supposed to lose this game. I mean, I said they were going to win game one. I thought they were going to win game one. They ended up losing, obviously, but I do not think that the series is over by any stretch of the imagination. Now, again, we saw it in the game one against the Miami Heat in round one. It comes down to the Bucks hitting their shots. Now, they're a hit or miss, and it's a win or loss type of team. The Milwaukee Bucks shot 20% from the three-point range. We're just going to go down the stat line real quick, and then we will break down the game on any other level. If you guys are tuning in, let me know your thoughts on the Bucks losing a game one against the Brooklyn at the Barclays Center, 115-107. Field goal percentage kind of even across the board with the Milwaukee Bucks and Brooklyn Nets. Milwaukee shooting just under 45%, and the Brooklyn shooting just under 47%. It's kind of surprising. I thought that the Bucks would have shot probably a little bit less than that, considering watching the game. So looking at those stat lines after the game, it's a little bit surprising. Three-pointers are kind of the story of this game. Now, the Bucks, for the most part throughout the regular season, they have been a team that wins and loses by the three-point. We saw it in the Miami Heat series. Now, they did win game one against Miami. They only made 5 out of 31 shots from the three-point range in that first game against Miami, but you could clearly tell Milwaukee was the better team in that series. They had the better players. They had a better coach. It's going to come down to hitting your shots, and you're not going to be able to shoot 6 for 30 tonight for your Milwaukee Bucks behind the three-point range. We already got our first Fire Bud comment. Xavier, thank you so much for tuning in. He's dropping his comments on Facebook. Adam, with the foul calls. We'll get to that, Adam, as well. That's kind of expected in this series. So we're going to kind of get into that. But the three-point, what went wrong in this game? And obviously it starts with the three-point percentage and shots and makes. The Bucks only shot 6 out of 30 from the three-point range. Brooklyn shot 15 out of 40. Again, just over 37% for Brooklyn. Probably not the best game that they've ever shot, but when you make 15 3-pointers and your opponent's only making 6, I kind of, the difference, obviously 27 points there, it's going to make a difference down the stretch. The Bucks did lose by 8 points. Obviously, it was a little bit farther of a difference there as the bench guys came in and kind of cleaned up. So again, the Milwaukee Bucks got outshot in the 3-point range. You would hope going into game 2, that's something that kind of changes the narrative on this series. Now, again, I mentioned at the start of the show, no James Harden. And if I was a betting man, I would assume that James Harden is probably done for this series. He did re-aggravate that same hamstring that kept him out of kept him out of 21 games. I would not anticipate come Monday night that he would be able to play. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But it's going to be interesting to see what Brooklyn does going forward with James Harden. Now, keep in mind, James Harden runs that second unit for Brooklyn when Kyrie and KD get their breaks. So it's going to be interesting to see going forward. Again, Bucks drop game 1, 115-107. Adam drops in a comment asking about foul calls. Now, here's the thing, and this is kind of where when I started the show, I said this game was kind of weird because it started off with obviously James Harden going out within 43 seconds of the game, which was kind of just weird. I think watching the game, texting a few friends, and I'm like, I don't even know what happened. The dude was just like walking off the court. I wasn't sure if there was like a fan altercation where they don't show the court, you know, how they go away from the screen or go away from the game. So I wasn't totally sure what was going on with that. But free throws, the Bucks shot 19 free throws to Brooklyn's 9. Now that's surprising to me. And again, I thought the referees were okay. There's obviously some calls at the end of that third quarter when Brook has that shot. KD has 4 fouls. Looked like a defensive foul with an and one. Brook makes that shot as time expired. Would have gave Kevin Durant his 5th foul going into the fourth quarter. I'm assuming that would have changed. That would have changed a little bit of how he played, how Steve Nash played Kevin Durant in the fourth quarter. But nonetheless, the Bucks do outshoot the Brooklyn Nets in free throws. Again, Milwaukee makes 11 out of 19. Brooklyn made 8 out of 9. So again, it goes back to the 3-point. The Milwaukee Bucks out-rebounded Brooklyn. That's encouraging. Out-rebounded Brooklyn by 9 rebounds, 14 offensive rebounds to Brooklyn's 6. That's encouraging to see. Out-rebounding. They're shooting more free throws. They're making more free throws. Look, if you're making more free throws than your opponent is attempting, that's a good sign. That's a good sign for Milwaukee. You hope that they can continue that going into game 2. Assists, Milwaukee with 19, Brooklyn with 25. Defensive blocks and steals, kind of the same. Brooklyn with 6 each, Milwaukee with 3 blocks, 4 steals. Turnovers were a little bit of a problem early in that game. Look, Milwaukee jumps out to a 20-11 lead in that first quarter, about little past midway past that first quarter, and things were looking good. They were looking good. Guys were hitting their shots. The defense was there. PJ Tucker was giving Kevin Durant, pretty much all he could handle early in that game. So again, it's going to be a series of making shots. It comes down to making your shots. When I put my 3 keys yesterday's show, when I had Kevin Holden on, my 3 keys to the Bucks beating the Brooklyn Nets was one of the keys was timely, clutch shots. You got to hit your shots when they're there. Bryn Forbes comes into the game and has 5 points. I mean, we saw a completely different Bryn Forbes in round 1. I'm not entirely sure, what that is about. If that was just one of those games, it could be one of those games that Milwaukee just wasn't there for most of the second half. Again, going into halftime only down 2, we kind of felt good about it. But again, going into halftime down 2, I thought the Milwaukee Bucks had a pretty good chance in the second half. I even texted a friend saying I think the Bucks are going to win this one. The third quarter was a story of the game, pretty much. Brooklyn outscores Milwaukee by 12 points in that third quarter, going up 14 into the fourth quarter. Obviously, that was going to be a little bit too much to ask for game 1. So again, I got Xavier dropping in a comment. Why is Giannis resting so much? I'm not sure. Yeah, I know Milwaukee Bucks Twitter is on fire right now. Giannis played 35 minutes, and real quick, because I saw Blake Griffin also played 35 minutes. I just want to take the time to just appreciate Blake Griffin for a second. From a guy that could barely walk in Detroit after collecting, over $100 million. I'm so glad to see that Blake Griffin has found his stroke again. I'm glad to see his knees all of a sudden are completely healed. It's so encouraging to see his punk ass on the court. I'm so glad to see that Blake Griffin is all better now after he cheated out the whole Detroit Pistons organization and fan base. So Blake Griffin, thank you again. Thank you for stepping over Thanasis. Get us ready for game 2 because the Milwaukee Bucks are going to win game 2. You heard it here first. Milwaukee is winning game 2. Now, Xavier, I'm not sure about minutes. Giannis does play 35. Chris Middleton plays 36 and Jrue Holiday plays 37. I'm okay with those minutes. Now, you got to keep in mind, I know everybody's up in arms about, Bud's rotation and Bud's minutes, but Kyrie Irving played 45 minutes. Blake Griffin played 35 and Kevin Durant played 40. Obviously, James Harden played 43 seconds, but as the series goes on, as it gets, into, games 3, games 4 or 5, if it gets to that point, those minutes that Brooklyn are playing, in my opinion, are going to add up a little bit. It's going to start, wearing down a little bit of Brooklyn. And they're a jump shooting team. They're not going to score more points in the paint to you. The Milwaukee Bucks outscored them in the paint 70-54. I was screaming in the first half. I yelled it. I put it in all caps on Twitter. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Why are we not feeding the ball inside? I've been calling for it since I started this show. And if you're not following, follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube at Brew City Pod. Screaming on Twitter to myself, why we're not feeding the ball inside and working the inside out game. Now, I'm not an NBA coach. I'm not the X's and O's expert with basketball. But what I do know is what my eyes are telling me while I'm watching the game. Kevin Durant was guarding Brook Lopez. He had 4 fouls in that second half. Feed Brook Lopez. Giannis, get to the hole. I don't want to see you pulling up with 3-pointers, the turnaround jumper. At times, yes. Attack, attack, attack. Giannis against this Brooklyn Nets team throughout the regular season is averaging almost 40 points, 10.5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Attack the rim. Attack, attack, attack. This Brooklyn team does not want to play defense. They do not want to play defense. They want to outscore you, outshoot you. They're not, today they out hustled you, primarily Blake Griffin. I do not know if we'll see that a game from Blake Griffin like that again. Now, I don't know, in the Brooklyn series, I watched a few games here and there, but I don't remember seeing Blake Griffin have 18 points and 14 rebounds. That was the Blake Griffin game. Again, I'm so glad to see that he has survived those catastrophic knee injuries that he suffered in Detroit, that he just had to leave and up and get a buyout. I'm so glad to see that he has resurrected his career within one game. So again, Bucks do lose 115-107. Game 2 coming in on Monday. Again, James Harden, obviously everybody that's on this post-game show knows James Harden does go out in that first quarter with a hamstring injury. It looked like his right hamstring, if I'm not mistaken, as he grabbed it. Now, keep in mind, if you missed the opening intro to the show, he did miss 21 games this season with that hamstring, so that's something to keep your eye on. Curious to see what happens going forward. He's obviously he's James Harden. He's very important to his team, but he's also very important to their rotation. Now, James Harden runs that second unit for Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving, he literally came out of the game with a few minutes left, and that was it. He played 45 minutes in game 1. So that kind of tells you everything that you really need to know how they felt about James Harden going out of that game. Obviously, keeping Kyrie Irving in that game for 98% of it is kind of telling in itself. I'm sure we'll hear something soon with James Harden. He did leave the arena, according to multiple sources, that he did leave the arena to go get an MRI on that hamstring. I'm assuming, clearly just assuming, if you leave the arena right away without sitting on the bench and just going straight to the locker room, changing and going right to the hospital for an MRI, I'm assuming that's probably not good for James Harden, which will eventually play into the Milwaukee Bucks' favor. It's simple, guys. I mean, it's really simple. If you're on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, drop a comment. What went wrong in game 1 as the Bucks dropped game 1 to the Brooklyn Nets? For me, it's simple, and I want your thoughts if you are on the live feed. Thank you guys for tuning in. I do so greatly appreciate it. I will be here, win, lose, or draw. This is our team. This is our city. We're going to defend them. We're going to talk about them. We're going to vent. And eventually we're going to celebrate. The Milwaukee Bucks will beat the Brooklyn Nets in game 2 and eventually in the rest of the series. But for tonight, what, in your opinion, what went wrong with this Milwaukee Bucks loss? A couple people dropping in comments about Bud not playing minutes, and Tyler drops out on the comment. Thank you, Tyler, for tuning in. Appreciate you, man. Carbon copy of game 1 versus Miami. And it's exactly what I said. It completely was. The difference between game 1 versus the Miami Heat and game 1 versus the Brooklyn Nets, Miami doesn't have Kevin Durant. They don't have Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Kevin Durant had 29 points. Kyrie Irving had 25. You weren't seeing that in the Miami Heat series. Milwaukee is clearly evenly matched, and you could even easily make the argument, and it's probably legitimate, that Brooklyn is the more talented team on paper, on the court, when it comes to against the Milwaukee Bucks. So with that being said, you cannot shoot 6 for 30 from the 3-point range, shooting 20%. It's obviously going to become a problem. The Milwaukee Bucks, we have seen it for probably the past 3 years. If they shoot poor from the 3-point range, there's probably a 95% chance that they're going to end up losing that game. They live and they die by the 3. It drives me nuts. I hate to see it. You would hope that they work the inside game a little bit more, especially against an undersized Brooklyn Nets team. Now, I know Claxton came in the game and was real tough for a couple of plays and flexed his skinny arms to the crowd after a block. I mean, I get that, but for the most part, this team does not want to play defense. They don't want to rebound the ball. They want to score. They want to run up and down the court. They want to get in transition, and they want to hit shots. Joe Harris, 19 points. Kevin Durant, like I said, 29. Mike James came off the bench, obviously with the injury to James Harden, played a little bit more minutes. He played 30 minutes, and he scored 12 points. So I don't necessarily have an issue, I guess, for Mike Budenholzer with the minutes. People are saying he dipped a little bit too much into his rotation, but I'm not entirely sure that's the case. I understand that, you want to see Drew Holiday out there more, and you want to see Giannis and Chris Middleton. Now, keep in mind, again, Giannis, Chris Middleton, and Drew Holiday all played over 35 minutes. It wouldn't have mattered if they probably played another 5 minutes, guys. Milwaukee was not hitting their shots. Chris Middleton had 13 points. 13 points. He also had 13 rebounds. So I guess if you want to find a silver lining in Chris Middleton's numbers, 13 rebounds is pretty darn good. But that goes to what I was saying. Brooklyn does not want to rebound the ball. They don't. They want to score, shoot, run, and that's it. They don't care about playing defense. Their goal is to outscore you. They had the 22nd rated defense in the NBA this year, and that was for a reason. They do not want to play defense. They do not want to bang down low in the paint. They're not going to rebound the ball for the most part. Kevin Durant plays the 5 a lot of that time. So he's not going to be around to rebound the ball. You're going to get your rebounds. But you can't allow Blake Griffin to out rebound, Giannis. Yes, Blake Griffin did out rebound Giannis. Blake Griffin literally out rebounded everybody on Milwaukee's team. That's a problem going forward. Get the box out. It's simple. Guys, I'm not saying I'm a fortune teller. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody that is watching these games. My 3 keys to beating this Milwaukee, this Brooklyn Nets team. Sorry, I had something pop up on my screen that kind of distracted me there. Was 3 things, obviously. Tough defense. Play tough defense. They played tough defense. They were up 9 in that first quarter. They played tough defense. They were doing the things that they needed to do. 2 other things. Clutch, timely shots. You got to hit your shots. You got to hit them at the right time, too. They failed to do that. Obviously, shooting 6 out of 30 from 3-point range is probably going to tell you that wasn't very good. It's going to be a problem going forward. You got to be able to hit your shots. Bryn Forbes, Chris Middleton, Pat Connaughton played 20 minutes, only had 3 points. Got to hit your shots. It sounds stupid. It sounds easy, but it's a vital part of winning this series. And number 3 was rebounding, and they out rebounded the Brooklyn Nets by a large margin, by 16. Those are my 3 keys. as I said of yesterday, that this Milwaukee Bucks team is going to have to do in order to beat the Brooklyn Nets. And we saw it already become a problem early. You got to understand that this team does not want to play defense. You could even argue that starting five, their best defensive player, maybe KD, but James Harden's been pretty good for them on the defensive side. So again, it's going to come down to those two things. Obviously, the defense is going to be there, I think, with the Milwaukee Bucks. PJ Tucker played really good. Again, got a couple cheap fouls, but that's what we're used to. We're used to these garbage calls or these non-calls coming into a series with a team with three guys that get to the foul line probably more than anybody in the NBA, outside of maybe LeBron James, who, by the way, is at home resting. So that's good. And tweeting, apparently. Out-rebound them, play tough defense, and you got to hit shots. Look, Brooklyn is going to score. They're going to score. They do not have three of the best players in the NBA for no reason. They are going to outscore you. That is their goal. That's why they don't care about rebounding the ball. They don't care about defensive efficiency. They don't care about switching on-ball screens. They want to get that ball in transition and get up open. They want to get open looks. And they move the ball around tremendously at times tonight. They had 25 assists as a team. Pretty darn good. I think that, honestly, and I watched, if I can remember, I probably watched like 3 or 4 games in that Boston series. This might have been probably the best game I think I've seen Brooklyn play so far in the playoffs. So is it encouraging? Is it something to, use as a positive, thing off of a loss? I don't know. What I know what went wrong, tongue twister right there. What I do know is that the Bucks shot poorly, and that's why they lost this game. There's no other reason. Kevin Durant only had 29 points, and Kyrie Irving only had 25, and James Harden obviously did not play. Your leading scorer for the Bucks was Giannis with 34 points, who seemed to be the only one that was in attack mode for the most part. There were certain times where he dropped off, but for the most part, Giannis was the only guy in attack mode. Giannis is your leading scorer with 34 points. Brook Lopez with 19. And Brook Lopez, I have so many mixed feelings with Brook Lopez. First off, I love Brook Lopez. Like, as a person, as a player, these playoffs, though, he's driving me nuts. You're 7-1, dude. And I know he got the call at the end of the first half with the and one. I understand you got the and one. Go up with the ball, Brook Lopez. You're 7-1. There's not anybody on that court taller than you. Get that ball held up high. You're taught it in grade school. Get the ball up high and go up strong with it. It just drives me absolutely nuts watching him sometimes. Now, he had a good game tonight. 19 points, 5 rebounds. Like, I'll take that any day of the week out of Brook Lopez, but he can't be your second leading scorer. Jrue Holiday right behind him with 17 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's a pretty good stat line for Jrue Holiday. Where the deficiency fell was Chris Middleton only having 13 points. He just, for whatever reason, really never got going tonight. Now, there's a couple plays where I thought he should have had an and one or a foul. But again, we know this. Like, guys, we know going into this series with the Brooklyn Nets, we're not going to get the calls. The calls are not going to go our way. It's just not going to happen. You got to move on from it. I'm going to complain about it. I'm going to tweet at NBA officials, and I'm going to be mad. But we already know. We already know that this is not going to be a series where the referees are going to help us. They didn't help us against Miami. They wouldn't help us. God, if we were playing Barcelona, I mean, it doesn't matter. The NBA officials, for whatever reason, the league, the Twittersphere, the national media folks, they don't want to see Miami, or they don't want to see Milwaukee into the Eastern Conference Finals and eventually the finals. There's a lot of things that went wrong in this game. I want some of your guys' thoughts. Again, if you're on Twitter, on Facebook, or on YouTube, drop a comment. Let me know what you think is going on, what went wrong, with the loss. Noah drops in a comment. Middleton shooting threes is the problem, not his non-calls. No, you're wrong. Because I know you've watched probably 5 Bucks games. For anybody that is watching, Noah is not a Bucks fan, but he's a New Orleans Pelicans fan. So he has a lot of time this summer to catch up on some basketball because I don't know where New Orleans is, but that is Middleton's game. Middleton's game is the mid-range and 3-point, shooting. When Middleton is shooting with the way that he is supposed to be shooting it, where he's averaging, again, that the series against the Brooklyn Nets in the regular season, Chris Middleton averaged almost 25 points. So the guy knows how to score against this team. Again, 25 points he averaged throughout the season against the Brooklyn Nets, 7.5 rebounds. The guy knows how to score, and he knows how to rebound, especially against this team. Shooting threes is Middleton's game. You can always tell early what's a Middleton game and what's a not Middleton game. Is he going to start off hot and kind of into the game and get himself focused early, or is he kind of just going to go with the flow early and then pick it up later in the game? You kind of can tell pretty early how a Chris Middleton game is going to be. And tonight you could tell pretty early that it wasn't going to be his game tonight. And again, that's okay. You're expected to lose one of these 2 games to start off the series with Brooklyn. I think it's okay. I think it's okay. I don't think Brooklyn probably could have played much better, especially losing James Harden early in that game. Now, I'm going to be interested to see what transpires with the James Harden injury. I think that's a significant loss. Obviously, he's one of the best scorers in the NBA, but it disrupts a little bit of their ebb and flow with their team. And again, like I stated a few times, James Harden is the second unit captain. He runs that ship for the second unit. Not only that, but when the big 3 for the Brooklyn Nets are on the court, James Harden has the ball in his hand. He's facilitating that offense with Kyrie and Kevin Durant as the primary scorers. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, it's going to dip into the Brooklyn Nets bench a little bit. You can hope that game 2, looking ahead to game 2, that the Milwaukee Bucks can number one, shoot a little bit better. Just shooting 20% from the 3-point range is obviously not going to do it. Now, you did it in game 1 versus Miami, but I'm telling you, offensively, Brooklyn versus Miami, it's just not even on the same stratosphere. Jimmy Butler wouldn't be able to sell a cup of coffee on this Brooklyn Nets offense if he was here. So it doesn't compare. So if you shoot 20%, really, if you shoot anything under 30, you're probably going to lose against this Brooklyn Nets team. Kevin Durant's going to get his shots. Kyrie Irving, who went on a little bit of a tear in that third quarter, is going to get his. And all you can really do is tip your cap. Like these guys are, other than Blake Griffin, who I cannot stand, they make their shots. They're going to make their shots. They're going to get the foul calls. Kevin Durant's going to swing his arms in a defender's way and get a call. I mean, that's what was expected. That's what we knew going into this series, into the next round, and eventually the next round. The officials are never on Milwaukee's side. Now, everybody that isn't a Bucks fan is always like, oh yeah, you guys cry. It's always blame the officials, blah, 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 blah. If you sit down, and I had a buddy, Adam, who was just on the live feed a couple weeks ago, he messaged me. Now, he's not a Milwaukee Bucks fan. He's an NBA fan, but he doesn't watch the Milwaukee Bucks. He decided to watch them that night. They were on national TV. I forgot who the opponent was, who they were playing. And he texted me and he goes, why doesn't Giannis get these calls? And I laugh. I sent him a couple laughing emojis and I go, this is, welcome to being a Bucks fan. Welcome to what we have to deal with. It's just what we're used to. Unfortunately, it's going to be like this from here on out. It's going to be like this as a Bucks fan, probably for the rest of our lives. And all we can do is just try to get around it. There's going to be calls that don't go our way more times than not. But I do not ever want to blame the officials. I thought the officials tonight were pretty decent. There's a few. I thought they could have called that foul against Brook Lopez. When Brook Lopez made that last second shot going into the fourth quarter as the time expired in the third quarter. I thought they could have called a foul on Kevin Durant. He didn't have his feet set, and it disrupted Brook's shot. So again, we can nitpick the officials, but what it comes down to is it's really, really simple. And there's everything the Milwaukee Bucks did. When you look at the stat sheet in this game, they did everything that they were supposed to do to win. They out-rebounded them. They played just as good a defense that Brooklyn did. They had less fouls. They had obviously more rebounds. They shot more free throws. They made more free throws than Brooklyn attempted. That's important going forward. So we cannot blame the officials. The Milwaukee Bucks did what they were supposed to do. They just could not hit shots. They went too stagnant on offense for a handful of minutes. I do not think we're going to see that in game 2 and maybe the rest of the series. This offense, who is, keep in mind, the number one offense in the NBA. So going forward, I think the offense will be a little bit better. Obviously, I think they'll shoot better than 20%. So I think they'll be okay there. I'm not too concerned going forward. Obviously, if James Harden is out of the series, I think that's a pretty big loss for them, obviously. Listen, it's kind of what you get. I don't feel bad for James Harden or Brooklyn. Number one, injuries are part of the game, but number two, it's kind of what you get when you want to go chase a ring and quit on your team in Houston, and then obviously jump ship with a team full of stars already. So I don't care for James Harden. I don't care about his hamstring. Whatever. It doesn't bother me. Nothing I can control about it. And if he's out, he's out. If he's not, we're still going to beat him. It doesn't matter. So again, Bucks lose big time. Isn't indicative on it. Bucks lose by 8. 115-107. Game 2 on Monday. Going to be interesting. Real quick before I wrap up the show, the defensive matchups coming to start the game were kind of caught me off guard for a little bit. At one point, you had Kyrie guarding Brook Lopez, okay, and on Milwaukee's side, you had Giannis on Kyrie, which was I did not expect that. I could see why, but I wasn't expecting that. You had PJ Tucker on Kevin Durant, and then you had obviously Jrue Holiday on James Harden. Obviously, James Harden left. So I think I don't want to say like, James Harden going out of the game kind of threw the Bucks for a loop, but it may have messed a little bit with their heads. Obviously, Brooklyn adapted well to it and just played really good. I mean, they shot 15 from 40 from 3. They hit key shots. Blake Griffin had more. I don't know exactly how many threes he had. It felt like he had more threes than the entire Bucks team. If I'm not mistaken, it's probably pretty darn close. I believe he was at 3 or 4 at one point. So, obviously, that was the Blake Griffin game. I don't know if we'll see a game like that come out of him, and hopefully we don't. If we see another one like that, then Brooklyn's probably going to end up winning that game. But it is what it is. Bucks lose game 1. I think they're going to bounce back and win game 2 Monday. We'll be back here with a post-game show. If you guys are tuning on, if you are watching, first off, thank you so much. After every Bucks playoff game, I will be doing a post-game, as well as my schedule allows me to. But for the most part, I think we will be pretty much cleared up to do a post-game show. If you guys are out there and you ever want to jump on, win, lose, or draw, do not be afraid. Shoot me a message. I will get you on. We can talk about it. If you want to come on for 5 seconds or 5 minutes, 20 minutes, that's fine. I really don't have a time limit set on these post-game shows. If there's more to talk about, obviously, the show will be a little bit longer. Look, game 1 is what it is. Bucks go into Brooklyn. They were expected to lose both of these games. There's a lot of people picking Brooklyn to win this series, and I think it's okay. You're going look, the pressure's all on Brooklyn. They're picked to win. They're supposed to be there. They went out and got Kevin Durant, obviously had Kyrie Irving and acquiring James Harden. This is what they're supposed to be here. This is what they're supposed to do. The pressure is going to lie on Brooklyn. Milwaukee, I do believe, bounces back and wins game 2, and obviously anything can happen at the Fiserv. So looking forward to that game 2 matchup Monday. I will be right here live with you following that game. Immediately following, I try to get onto the show exactly as the game's ending. I feel like it's just good to just talk about it, whether it's good or bad, and kind of get it out of the way, move on, and play the next game. Look, if you guys are fans of the show, if you're tuning in, first off, like I was saying, I got sidetracked there. Thank you. Number one, thank you so much for the support, for the comments, for the likes, the shares, the retweets, whatever it is. Thank you. The show now has its own merchandise. So if you guys are out there and you want to support the show, jump on. The link is posted on Facebook and on Twitter. Jump on that link, click it. Shop. They got like literally all kinds of stuff. I would bore you to death if I sat here and kept going. But check that out. Again, I appreciate you guys. On the positive side, if there's something to look at, the Milwaukee Brewers won tonight. That the Cubs just lost. That actually puts the Milwaukee Brewers in first place in the division. So there's a little bit of positivity with our teams going forward. So again, Monday after the Bucks game, I will be here with you guys. I hope you all have a phenomenal rest of your Saturday evening. I hope you have a phenomenal weekend. Stay cool. Weather's going to be really hot in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area tomorrow, as well as it is today. So as I'm hunkered down in the basement for obvious reasons. So again, thank you guys for tuning in. Follow the show on Twitter, on Facebook, on subscribe on YouTube at Brew City Pod. You can follow me on Twitter at Wisco_Brandon. Please do not forget, if you haven't already, subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, a bunch of other apps that I'm not familiar with, and check out the show. Some really cool interviews. John McLaughlin was on there. Kevin Holden was with me Friday. John McLaughlin's actually, if the Bucks get into the Eastern Conference Finals, John McLaughlin's jumping back onto the show. I already talked to him about that, so that's something to look forward to. And hopefully we can get John McLaughlin. And we could probably still get him on. But that'll do it for tonight's post-game show. Again, I will see you guys on Monday evening. As always, go Bucks, go Brewers, be safe, Milwaukee. Talk to you guys soon. See ya.